Thank you for the round of applause. So coming here before you again, as Paul and your principal have said, I'm a police officer. And this is kind of the weird thing about being a police officer is every time I have to introduce myself, people just think, oh, you're just a cop. And they never pay attention to everything else that happened beforehand. So I'll ask you now, when you see a police officer, what type of upbringing do you think I've had compared to yours? Let's just talk. There's no wrong answers here. I want you just to say the first thing. Do you think I had a perfect upbringing growing up? Like everything was good, mom and dad at home, and never had any problems in my life. And then all of a sudden one day, boom, I wake up and I said, I want to carry a gun and I want to chase bad guys and I'm going to go catch people. I'm going to put them in jail. That thought kind of happened for me at some point, but I had to do a lot of stuff in between to get there. And in that time, there was a lot of bad things that kind of got me to where I got to. And with your age category, this was kind of a critical component of my life, was being in this grade, between 6, 7, and 8. So if you're in grade 8, put up your hand so I could just see who's in grade 8 up here. Oh, grade 8s are all in the back, which is where I thought the grade 8s would be, right? And where's the grade 7s? Here in the middle, and obviously the grade 6s right up at the front, right? And the reason I bring that up is I'm just gonna tell you a little bit of a story today before we get into the back end of it. And all I ask is just give me a 10-minute warning so I know when the time's up. So it was actually in grade 6, and I grew up in a family of 4. I was the youngest of 4. I have an older brother and 2 older sisters, and growing up, if anybody has older siblings, unfortunately growing up for me, I get beat up all the time, right? It was always my siblings that beat me up. And that was just kind of part of life for me. And as I got older, I'd always get beat up, and I get beat up for dumb things, right? But it was my family, so you kind of just deal with it. And both my parents, they were immigrants to this country, and they were never home because they were always working different jobs. So they were on rotating shifts, which mean that when my dad was at work during the day, my mom would work at night, and then I was left alone with my siblings who just beat me up. But they cared for me, they loved me. In the end of the day, now I can look back and I can value that and say that's a little bit better. But as I grew up, I was kind of left on my own, right? In terms of, I really didn't have supervision when I was out and about. So from the age of kindergarten up, I was kind of, after school, I was on my own. I did my own thing all the time. And looking back, I thought I was doing fun things, but I actually got myself in a whole bunch of trouble. And it wasn't until grade 6 that I'd met my best friend. And in grade 6, his name was Vic. And this is the thing, all right, for the grade 6ers. Initially, we hated each other. We were 2 guys that were in school. We were both kind of big for our age, but we never talked to each other. We were always on different sides. And we never went from kindergarten to grade 5 together, but we went to school from grade 6 on. And in grade 6, we didn't like each other. Grade 7, we didn't like each other. Grade 8, we didn't like each other. And then boom, grade 9 hits and we started playing football. And all of a sudden, where I grew up, we were one of the only colored people playing football in the area at the time. And it wasn't that I didn't grow up in a multicultural area, it was just that was not a thing for Indian people. And I am Punjabi, as you can tell from my shirt. It wasn't a thing to go and play football, but I always liked getting into a little bit of contact with people because I was so used to it growing up the whole time. So Vic and I became best friends in grade 9. And this was awesome. Now we're playing football all the time together, we're working out, and all our jobs we had together. And then one day in grade 10, we're in high school, and we had a class that was grade 10, 11 split. All right, so it would have 2 classes split in. Do you guys have any classes like that where it's like 6, 7 split? And you guys call them split classes, or what do you guys call them? Split classes, or what do they call? They are like that, right? Split classes. So we had this split class in grade 10 and 11. And we're sitting in the back of the class, right where the grade 8s are. And here I am, and here's Vic, and we're right in the back of the corner, and there's this door right here that separates us from another classroom. Underneath that door, all of a sudden we see one day is a bill, a $100 bill, slides underneath that door, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. And it's kind of like this, the bottom there. Vic and I look at each other, man, we've never seen a $100 bill before in our life. So for the first time, we're like, what is going on here? So we slowly reach down. And we try to grab it, and the first class goes by, we can't get it. The next day we go to school, the $100 bill is back. Eventually, the third day, we get it. And we both can't believe we got $100 in grade 10. And that was unbelievable. Never seen that much money in our life before. And I take that $100, and we're like looking at each other, and we're thinking, what are we going to do with this money? We're going to buy our friends lunch. We're finally going to do fun stuff. And the door opens, and as the door opens, who do I see as this really big guy? And he looks at us and he says, "Give me my money back." And his nickname was King. Everybody called him King in the neighborhood. And King was known to be a gang member. And King was doing this as a little game, right, in grade 10. He wanted to show $100. He wanted to see who's going to grab it and what's going to happen with it. So the door opens, King sees us, and everybody knew King had a bad reputation. Everybody thought he had guns. They thought he was a drug dealer. They knew he beat people up. They knew he belonged to a gang. And King looked at Rick and I and he said, "Give me back my money." So what do you think we did? Yeah, we gave it right back. Rick and I were big guys. We were football players. We were tough guys, but we knew King's reputation, so we give it back to King. The next day, a note slides over. And underneath that door, that note said, "What are you guys doing after school?" We responded back, "We're going to go to football practice." And over the course of a few days, he kept passing notes. And eventually we became friends. And after a week or two, I'm walking in the hallway and King puts his arm around me and he says, "Listen." And he calls me Soldier. And he says, "Listen, Soldier, because I want to know who the biggest drug dealer is in the school." Now there's another guy I grew up with who was the biggest drug dealer in the school. But this guy was also a gang member from a different gang. And I looked back at King and I said, "King, I don't think you want to mess with this guy. Like, this guy's kind of a big deal." And King takes my hand in school in grade 10 and he puts it on his waist and I pull it out and there's a gun. And I'm in grade 10. Never seen a $100 bill before. Now all of a sudden I'm walking in class and I got a gun with me and I give it back to him and I don't even know what to do. And the craziest part about this whole thing, it was just King and I, is as soon as I left that room, I picked up the gun here from him. I gave it back to him. I said, "Are you crazy?" And he says, "Don't worry, I got you." Which just meant that I'm protected. I'm now one of his guys. I'm a soldier now to him. As soon as I left that, I walked down the hallway. I made a right turn, and one of my teachers, I still remember her, Miss Hopkins, my chemistry teacher, pulls me to the side and she says, "Is everything okay?" And what do you think I said to her? Yes. I said, "Yeah." I said, "Everything's fine." I go, "Why do you ask?" And she says, "I've seen you hanging around King. This doesn't make sense. Are you okay? Is there something you want to tell me?" And I say to her, "No, everything's okay. He's just asking me for help on chemistry and math." And she says, "If everything's not okay, my door's always open. You can come and talk to me." So I leave. And now we're back and we're talking about it. And King comes and he meets us after school and he says, "Listen, I want you to set up a very big drug deal." He says, "This other guy whose name was the other gang member who's the biggest drug dealer," he says, "I want you to get, and I want you to set up a big drug deal after school in a week from now downstairs in the washroom." And I say to King, I go, "Well, what are you going to do if I do this?" And he goes, "I'm going to rob him." So I'm going to take the gun, I'm going to rob him, I'm going to take all the drugs, and then I'm going to walk away from here and I'm going to make money and I'll give you some of the money. Rick and I looked at each other, and now we'd been hanging out with this guy for a month. I had no idea what was even happening. And every day at lunch, I would see two people. I would see friends that I grew up with, and then I would see King, and he'd bring all his friends from another neighborhood. And there were two different gangs. And the next thing you know, I didn't even know this was happening. I was hanging out with King and all his friends, and they were all calling my soldiers. And I still didn't know what that meant, but they kept saying, "These guys are good, they're my soldiers, they're my soldiers." So eventually, one day, King puts the pressure on us, right? And who knows what pressure is? Who can define pressure for me? Yes, young lady.
It's like stress and stuff. Like if like a really big task is on you and you don't have enough time to finish it, or like a gun is pointing at you.
Yeah. So does it feel good?
No.
Not this type of pressure. There's some pressure that feels great. If you're playing sports and you're the best at taking three-pointers, or you're the best at a slap shot, or you're the best at throwing a football, and the coach gives you the ball and he says, "Only you can do this," does that feel great? That feels amazing. Because you know somebody has a belief in you and you do it and it feels great. But this type of pressure doesn't feel good. And King had put the pressure on me really early. And he said, "I've asked you last week, I need you to set up this drug deal." He says, "I've already told everybody you're part of the group. I've already told everybody you're part of us. Are you a soldier or not?" So now I felt bad pressure. So I see Troy at lunch one day, and we grew up together, and Troy was a legitimate gangster, 150%, and so was King. And I sit down with Troy, and we're playing dominoes at lunch, and I'm just talking to Troy, and I see King looking at the cafeteria, and he's looking down at me. And he's watching everything I'm doing, so I'm pretending like I'm talking to Troy to be like, "Yeah, okay, we got to set this up." And after I play dominoes with Troy and I leave, King grabs me, puts his arm around me again because he was really big and really scary looking. And he says, "Did you set it up?" And what do you think I said?
Yes.
I said, "Yeah." Right? I was afraid. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even think to talk to anybody. But I said, "Yeah, I did it." And then I left and I walked away. And I had told King when I did it, I said, "He's going to meet you in the bathroom stalls by the principal's office at 3:30 after school today." So after school comes around and myself and Vic are walking away, and as we're walking away, we walk by the washrooms and I'm like, we should take a look to see who's in there. And when I open it up, who do I see hiding in the bathroom stall? I see King. He's hiding there. And as I leave, I walk by and I walk by the principal's office and I walk by my sports coaches and they're all like, "Are you okay?" They asked me again. And what do you think I said?
Yes.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah," I was stupid. And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I walked away and I left. And I was terrified to come to school the next day because I knew now I would have to deal with King. So I get into school the next day and I came late. I think I didn't go to the class that we were going to have potentially together. I tried to avoid him. But by the end of the day, he caught up to me again. And he was mad at me now. He says, "What did you do?" And now I had to explain to him and I had to lie to him and I had to come up with this whole story about that I told. Too smart not to mess with each other. After that, King said, "You're done. You're out of here." And I became his enemy. But in this case here, he didn't do anything to me. He didn't say anything bad to me. He just said, "You're done. I'm over with you. Don't talk to me. Get out of here." Right? He thought I was useless, which was perfect for me at the time. So I leave and we have this experience. So for a few months, we kind of, without even knowing, we became part of a gang. But then I got out. I managed to get out. And I got older, I was terrified from that experience because I realized how bad this could have been because I grew up around gangs. I grew up around bad guys my whole life. Even sometimes I was a bad guy. But as I got older, I realized this is not who I wanted to be for the rest of my life. I definitely don't want to be this person. So when we became 18, best friends kind of decided to take two separate routes. So for me, I saw a future for the first time in my life. I saw something that I wanted to be. And when I saw that, I thought he saw the same thing, did something very stupid, and he got charged. He wanted to be a cop just like me. We both wanted to do this. And I don't even know where it came from. We just knew deep down in our hearts, we always wanted to help people. Because I think growing up for us, I always wished I had somebody to help me. But stupid me, when people offered to help me, I thought I knew better. When my teacher offered to help me, I thought I knew better. I should have just told her what was happening. When my principal offered, I should have just told him. When my coaches offered, I should have said something to somebody. But now that I look back, the reason I didn't say anything is because nobody told me you should have said something. Everybody around me said what? I want you to think, who has a younger sibling here? How young is your younger sibling from you? From you, how old? 5. And how old are you? 12. 3 years old? Yourself? 3. Yeah, no, how old is your younger sibling? 3. And yourself back there? 13. And that's how old you are. And how old is your younger sibling though? 11 and 8. So you have 2, right?
Oh wait, my sibling is
6 years old. And we'll get over there. Yes, yourself. Sorry? 5. And you in the back? 8. 1. Little baby. Okay, you guys can put your hands down. Now I want you to think about this. The story I just told you, which is only the beginning. I haven't told you the end. The story I just told you now. Your younger sibling comes to you, and do they look up to you, yes or no? He says not really. But you know what? You don't think so. You don't think so, but they do. Your younger sibling comes up to you today and tells you, "I met somebody and they made me carry a gun. And a teacher asked me if everything was okay." What do you tell them? What do you tell them? What would you say to them? Sorry, one at a time. What did you say? What would you tell them? If they say to you, "What is your name?" Sorry? Parisa. So Parisa, your younger sibling comes up to you and says, "Parisa."
I don't have a younger sibling. I have an older brother.
Okay, you have a younger sibling. What's your name? Sloan? Sloan, younger sibling comes up to you and says, "Sloan, I met somebody. They made me carry a gun. I saw some drugs." What do you tell them?
I tell them that I would help them.
You would help them, right? But if they say to you, "Sloan, should I tell somebody?"
I would say yes.
Yeah, you would say yes, right? Would anybody say yes?
Yes.
Right? And somebody, wait, somebody said no. Who said no? Why would you say no?
Because, that saying that gang people do, the snitches get stitches thing, they would, if you told them, they threatened to harm that person and just avoid them at all costs.
Okay, and where did you learn that from? Did you have an experience like that?
No.
Did you hear it from somebody?
No.
Give me 1 second. So, you believe it to be true, right? Who else believes that's true? So you just heard it from somebody. So if I tell you unicorns exist and they're just across the street and they live there, is that just true now?
No.
It's true? Is that something you're going to stop and say, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? Right? Theoretically, but we're not talking theoretically, we're talking real life. So the point of that is, I wish I had somebody tell me and just said, Ron, you got to tell somebody about this. But I had nobody to go and talk to because I believed things that weren't true. And when you think now with your younger siblings, if they come and ask you, and everybody here, almost everybody, and it's okay, you know what I mean? There's no wrong answer here. And that's the point, is we want to tell the truth as we believe it to be. But everybody here almost unanimously said, of course I would tell them to tell somebody. But I ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you tell somebody?
Yes. No.
She said no. So time out for a second. Time out. So what makes you different than somebody else? Your opinions, right? And you said, sir? It's not you. So there's something, so you already know, and that's a beautiful, I love that you said it's not you, because that's such an important thing to talk about. It's not you. So when it's somebody else, we know what's right and wrong. Is that true? We know, there's no question. When I asked you guys and I said, hey, listen, somebody holds a gun and they come and talk to you, and you guys said, of course you tell somebody. But now I said, what about you? And you summed it up perfectly. I couldn't have said it any better. You said, well, it's not me. So why are you less important or less special than that person? Do you not need somebody then to be that person for you? To say, you should tell somebody. Yes, sir.
Well, no, but if someone has a gun and you know they have a gun, and that might scare you, and you might not tell someone because...
Of course.
And you might think, oh, well, I can deal with it myself.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you've never been in that position.
Never been in that position before. But that's the beautiful thing about telling stories, right? Well, yes, ma'am.
I guess when you're in that position, you're not really thinking about what you should do because you just saw a gun and you're like, okay, I'm not going to tell anyone because I'm in this position.
Great. So for you, didn't leave, she said, it's the first time I've been in that position. I don't know what to do. And that's the point of having these conversations and talking about it. That's the beauty of stories and reading books and learning things, is all this is doing now is, if you come across that situation, we'll just use this as an example. You come across the exact situation now you have an experience of somebody telling you this is what you should do. You should tell somebody. So now that you have this experience that we're all sharing together, you know now what the next step should be. You can walk away. But here, let's say that gun, let's say you walk away, you don't tell anybody. You're okay. But that person goes out after school and goes shoot somebody. How do you feel about that? You feel bad. And do we not have a responsibility here to each other? We do, of course. But let me get back to the story. So Vic gets charged at 18. I don't get charged. I managed to get through my life all the stupid, irresponsible things I am absolutely not proud of. I managed to never get caught. And as we get older, 18, 19, 20, I start applying to become a police officer. Here's the problem. My past started to catch up to me. And we think that what we do as kids, nobody ever knows about. Everybody knows at some point. And when you try to become a police officer, the police know almost everything. And when that became the issue, nobody cared about what I was or how much I changed or all the things that I accomplished in my life to become who I want. I just kept getting compared to all the people I was around growing up. So I got rejected, and then eventually, over time, I got hired. But as I got hired to be a police officer, our relationship started to separate. He started to become a gang member, and I became a police officer. We never hated each other, But we just had an understanding that this can no longer be one. We're on opposite sides of this. So I would stick around all the time, and he would see me around all the time, and we've been best friends since grade 6. We've done everything together. Before I became a cop, we had 30 jobs together. We'd played every sport together. We'd spent almost every day together. But as soon as I became a cop, we separated. And we both just knew. We didn't even have to talk about it. We both just knew, man, we're on different paths. And as I became a cop, I would hear his name pop up at a few things. I would see him around at a few different places. And I would hear from him through other people. So all the friends that we grew up with that became gang members, he would go back and that they would see me, he would say, hey man, how's Ron doing? And then I would get the message through some other people and I'd say, hey man, I'm good. And then we'd talk kind of like that. And we didn't see each other for years. And in the process, I had heard all these crazy things about him. All of these crazy things about him. And I never chose to believe that they were true. But then, unfortunately, 2 years ago, I get a phone call from one of my other friends that I grew up with that I've known since grade 9. And she'd call me up, and I haven't heard from her in years. I don't even know how she got my phone number. But she calls me up, and she says, have you heard? And this is in... She said, have you heard? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, have you heard of... I said, no. She said, he's dead. The kid killed somebody, and then he had killed himself. And this is all gangs. And here I was, right, working for the Toronto Police and the Gun and Gang Task Force. And I was now trying to figure out how do we get people outside of gangs. That was my only job, and that is my job today. And when I look back and I look back at all those experiences, it started right here at this age, 6, 7, and 8. And in that entire process of going forward from here to where I got to now, it's been a fight and a struggle to get through all of these things. But it's nothing that is impossible. Look, I'm standing right here in front of you. And that whole thing, when I look back, is, have you guys ever heard you have a choice, you can choose what you want to do? Yeah. You guys heard that? Yeah. And I would hear that, and I would just think to myself, well, it's not that easy. Does anybody else feel that way? Yeah. No? And when I say, it's not that easy, tell me about what makes it not easy for you. You guys are so wise, and I have something here that I'm going to end up giving to you guys afterwards. And I do this with high school kids as well, and it's something that I find is very valuable. And I want you to think about it now. And here's the thing: you don't have to do this if you don't want to do it. The decision is up to yours. When we talked about choices, this is your choice, absolutely your choice. But the reality that you may face here is, are gangs a real thing to you, where you live? Right? Some people said yes, some people said no, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's a real thing for a lot of people. But I'm going to ask you a few questions that are on here, and I don't want you to say them out loud. And if you feel comfortable sharing, by all means you can share them. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. This is about choices. And we're going to practice choices from the very beginning. And this paper, if you fill it out at home, and you just tuck it and you keep it away somewhere, and I do this, I have this for myself, and I have one at home right by my bed, so I remind myself to make good decisions for the rest of my life, for the people that matter to me. I use this as my reminder. So there's something called tangible. Does anybody know what that word means, tangible? I know it's kind of sounds like a cool word, right? This guy's getting a Fortnite invitation on his phone. But there's something called tangible. And what tangible is you can hold it in your hand. So this paper, is this tangible, yes or no? Yes. Yeah, are my thoughts tangible? No. And do our thoughts not drive us to do things that we want to do every day? Yeah. Do our thoughts sometimes drive us crazy? Yes. Make you sad, mad, happy, hungry? Thoughts. But they're not tangible things. So all we're going to do is we're going to use this paper, and we're going to take our most important thoughts, and we're going to make them tangible. And that's why I like this, because the second I take a thought and I put it on paper, it becomes real. And the first question I'll ask you, and I want you to take a second and think about it. The first question is, the people in my life that mean the most to me are. Just think about that. Who are the people in your everyday life that you see that mean the most to you? Is it your parents? Is it your siblings? Is it your best friends? Is it a teacher? Is it a coach? Is it somebody? Just think about that. And I want you to think about those people that mean the most to you. Like really, who means the most to you that if they were not in your life, you would not feel good? And I want you to remember those people, and we're going to move on to the next one. And does anybody, actually, before we move on, does anybody want to share who the most important people are to them? And again, you don't have to. Yes, sir. Family and coach. What's your coach in? What sport? Basketball coach and family. Yes, ma'am.
My family and friends.
Family and friends, yes. She says everyone that she knows, which is a big heart. That's beautiful, yes.
My family and friends, and obviously me.
Family, friends, and she says me. I love my, I'm important to me, which is great. She says family and friends, and then somebody else had their hand up in the back. Did you guys have your hand up? No? No? All right, now remember. Oh, yes, sir.
People that I trust.
So who do you trust?
My family.
Family. So we can say, yes, ma'am, you want to say something? Family and friends. So let's go with this. Yes, sir. Him, he says, yes, sir, in the back. Family, friends. So let's go with this. Does everybody agree? Family, friends, coaches, all important.
Yes.
All important, right? Remember those people, family, friends, coaches. Now I want you to think about this. Those people, they would describe me as. If I were to go to those people, your family, friends, coaches, I'm talking positive, not negative. Even though annoying can be positive depending on the type of person. I want to think positive. Those people, family, coaches, friends. If I were to go to them and I were to ask your best friend, if I were to ask your mom and your dad, your siblings, and I said, tell me about this person, what are the 3 things that they would say to me? And if you can't think of 3, think of 1. And does anybody feel comfortable sharing what they think that their parents would think about them?
Kind, clever, and smart.
Kind, clever, and smart. Does anybody else? Those are beautiful things to add.
My parents will say me, myself, and I.
His parents. That doesn't really match the question.
If it was like my mom and my dad, they'd probably think of me just as like their son, like intelligent.
Intelligent. What else?
I don't know, athletic,
Athletic.
and like person.
Oh, what did you say? Sorry, last one?
Person.
A person. An individual. We'll say, all right. Yes, ma'am.
In my family, they're caring, intelligent, and sometimes a handful.
Caring, intelligent, sometimes a handful. All those good things? And how did you feel saying those things? Do you feel kind of responsible to be those things? Because that's what you think your loved ones care for you, right? So after that, we know who are the most important people that belong to us. Family, friends, what? Coaches. Said 3 beautiful things about you, and you adopt that. That's who you think you should be. Now I'm going to ask you just one thing here. What are you most proud of? What are you the most proud of that you think you can do better than anybody, or that you do extremely well?
Being myself.
She says, being myself, which is, if you were to describe yourself, what would that be? Everybody, I need you to just quiet down.
Myself, athletics, or yeah.
So you're an athlete. Yes, sir, in the back. Basketball and gaming skills. What game in particular? Fortnite and Apex Legends? Right. Yes.
My gaming skills and the way to annoy people.
Well, gaming skills and the fact that and what about you guys over here?
What did you ask?
No, you guys, go ahead, tell me. The question I asked you is, what are you most proud of? Yes, sir. Wait, guys, listen up. So living in those houses and shoveling driveways, is that what we said? So making money. So this guy's over here, ladies and gentlemen. Over here you have an entrepreneur. You know what an entrepreneur is?
Yes.
What is an entrepreneur? Yeah, doing things for the public or doing things for yourself. But this guy here is shoveling driveway and making money, and he's proud of that. And that takes a special type of person, and you should be proud of that. Now I'm going to ask you this last question. Last question, which sums it all up. If I was a genie in a bottle, and you rub that bottle, and I come out and I say to you, I'm going to give you your dream life, and you get to pick 3 things. All right, and those 3 things are: what job do you have? What type of home do you have? And what does your family look like? Tell me what that is. You in the back. Job. Anything. NBA player. Where do you live and what does your house look like? A mansion. And what does your family look like or friends that are around you? Mom's taken care of. And your dad. Family's taken care of. Yes, you. Job. Artist. And what else? And then what does your house look like? So a nice house, not small, not big. And then what does your family look like?
Just the way they are.
Just the way they are. Perfect. Just your family. And then I'll pick you, ma'am.
I'm an actor,
She wants to be an actress or actor. Yep.
and I want a house that is suitable for living, as in
So
Wi-Fi.
a modest house with Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And then what does your family look like? Who lives in that house with you?
My mom, kids, and my husband, and then if I have like a grandmother or like anybody from my husband's side.
Got it. Yes, you in the back. Guys, quiet down for a second. Go ahead.
Either a baseball player or an engineer.
Yep. And what does your house look like?
Probably like a modern house.
Modern house, something cool. And who lives in that house? Just the family they have. Okay. Now here's the thing, guys. We're not going to go through this all day, so I need you to put your hands down. Now the point is, all that, when you get this sheet of paper, we'll come back to you later. And you write it down there. Now what does it become? Those thoughts become what? Tangible. And when you can hold something in your hand that was previously a thought, does it feel real to you?
Yes.
Feels very real because now you have a plan. You have a plan. All you've done in this is you've made a plan for your life from the age of 6. But part of this plan is it's not that easy to get this. And I'll tell you why it's not that easy to get this. Yes, sir. 100%. But before we get there, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in that process. We had talked before about choices and them not being easy. In the process of you trying to chase your plan and chase your dream life of having that modest or beautiful home, being an athlete, having the family that you want in that house, you're going to come across obstacles and roadblocks. Came across. But there's one in particular that I'm here to talk to you guys about that is going to be potentially one of your biggest roadblocks, and those roadblocks are going to be manipulative people. Do you guys know what manipulative means? What does it mean?
Manipulating is like stabbing someone in the back. It's like you have a friend and they tell you to do something and manipulating could be either trying to do a good thing or it could be a bad thing.
That's right. It could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Like
Jet.
what you did was a good thing.
Yes.
If like I don't really I can't explain it that.
You know what? You're doing a fantastic job. You're doing a great job at it. So you actually hit it right on the head. So manipulating is, and the way I think of it and the way I like to explain it is manipulating is I'm going to trick you into doing something I want you to do, but I'm going to make you think that you want to do it. Does that make sense? So if I want you to go and take that book and walk out of here without signing out, I'm going to use my words to trick you into thinking that you actually want to take that book and walk out of here with it. But then as soon as you're out of here, I'm going to say, give me that book because I need it. So I got something out of it. But you took all of the risk of doing it. And in particular, let's talk about gangs. And let's talk about what they do. So your age category right now, if you guys all live in this area, have you seen gangs in your area or people you think are gangsters or gang members?
Yes.
Are they older than you?
Yes.
The ones who have seen them and the ones who don't, but wherever you live, is that something? Are there gangs there? Yes, there are. Now I want you to think about this. You have your life in front of you. You have an amazing plan. You wrote it out. We now made our thought into something tangible. We have a plan. We're going to follow this through. And one of your obstacles is, now I'm a gang member in your area. No, I don't see your paper. You want to know why I don't see your paper? I don't care about your paper. Yeah, I'm a gang member, right? I'm going to be a gang member now. You want to know what it's actually like? I'm going to be that guy for you. You want to know why I'm that guy? Because I was that guy. I know exactly how to do this. So if you think I'm joking here, I know exactly how to make each and every one of you do exactly what I want you to do without you even realizing you're doing it. Because I was that guy. And because somebody did it to me, I can do it to you because I figured it out. And your plan here, your plan comes second to what? My plan. I don't care about your plan. You're nothing to me. You guys are just kids. Whatever I say, you're going to do. And if you don't do it, I'm going to make you do it. And how are ways I can make you do it?
Threatening or violence.
Yeah, threatening or violence, right? So if I walk up to you and I said to you, what's your name?
Stephen.
Steven. You're going to take this bag, you're going to go outside. You understand?
No.
No? Okay, Steven. So we're not in school. After school, you're by yourself playing at the park. Not only am I here, but I have my other gang members with me. I said, Steven, you're good with that? You understand? Good. And when you go and do that, I'm going to give you $5. Is that good? And if you say anything to anybody, I don't know you. We like to say no deal, but what do you think would actually happen? He's going to do it, right? Now I want you to think about this. Think about this. Think about this. I say that to you. I say that to you, but the morning of, you just wrote this. That morning you wrote this. After school, today, you come across that. I want you to think of 5 questions to yourself. And this is why it's on here, because I don't expect you to remember it. Whenever you feel like you're in a position like that, specifically with a gang member, what they're very good at is manipulating people. They're very good at intimidating you. They're very good at bullying you. They're very good at looking the part. Why do you think gang members look the way that they do? Scare you. A gang member doesn't wear a suit and a tie on the street. Is that scary to anybody? No. You know, what type of music do gang members mostly listen to? And what type of lyrics are in rap lyrics? Are there nice ones about let's go to school and let's hug each other and let's live our dreams? Yeah. Oi. Or do they say things like, if you mess with me, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to kill everybody that you know? Or do they say, the reason I do that is because I'm a drug dealer on the street? Right? Yeah, but think about it now. So I come to you after school. You're by yourself. And I want you to think about this, being by yourself. And I want you to think if this is you. If you have parents and they're at work, are there ever times when you guys are home alone? Yeah, right? And as you get older, are you going to be playing outside more with your friends, hanging out? Yeah. Some no, some yes. Now here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I worked as a school officer in the west end of the city in Rexdale. And the school that I worked at in the west end of the city had 17 drive-by shootings in the month before school started. 17 drive-by shootings. And when I was in that school, there was a lot. And when I was in that school, it was all gang members. A lot of them were gang members that I dealt with. And I got to understand them a little bit better because they would tell me things and we developed a good relationship and I got a better understanding of what happened in there. And by talking to them, I started to understand that they're doing exactly what I'm doing in front of you now. And what they would do is the high school kids would wait outside school and they'd want to see at your age category who's hanging out by themselves every day after school. Who's here by themselves every day, playing by themselves or playing with one other person. And then they wait and they watch. And when they come up to those people, they do small things. They recruit, which what they're looking for is people similar to them, people who had the same upbringing as them that they think I can manipulate because I've been there, I understand this. And they present you things. Sometimes they'll give you money. Sometimes they'll buy you a McDonald's. Sometimes they'll say, hey, go and do this and I'll give you a bicycle. Yeah. Do you know what a bike's value is in certain parts of the city? I'm not talking in terms of value of what that does in terms of money. I'm talking to a kid who has nothing. What a bike means? What a bike means is I can get from here to over there. But there's a cost to that, and what they don't tell you is the cost. But as this happens, I want you to ask yourself 5 things, and they're all at the bottom of this, all right? And I want you to go home, and I want you to think about these things. You don't have to write it, but just think about these things. And we had talked about who are the people that mean the most to you. What would your friends and family describe you as? What are you the most proud of? And then what does your dream life look like? And if you stay focused to that and you follow the blueprint to get there, and somebody else gives you that roadblock, especially when you think they're a gang member or gang involved or they look the part that kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, that same scenario that I just did with this gentleman here, where I said, you're going to take this bag, which is probably drugs, and you're going to take it from this place to that place on the bike I just gave you, which is something that happens every day in the city of Toronto. I want you to think about the first question. I want you to imagine yourself in that scenario. And I want you to think about this. And the first question you should be asking yourself is, will this hurt me? There's no answer to this right now. The point of this is there's no answer to it right now, because luckily for some of us, not all of us, and if you're thinking in this room that nobody's had these experiences in this room, I'm willing to bet that you're wrong. So there's some people in this room that have had these experiences. Give me 1 second, I'll get right back to you. So I want you to think about that. And I want you to think, first thing is, will this hurt me? The second thing is, will this hurt somebody else? How will drugs hurt somebody else? Yeah, they might get high and they might kill themselves. Are drugs good or bad? I'm not talking medicine. I'm talking illicit drugs. Great word, illicit drugs. What's the first question? Will this hurt me? Second one is, will this hurt somebody else? The third one is, I want you to think of your family, friends, and your coaches. Will I be proud of this if I have to explain this to one of them? Would you be proud of that, telling your mom and dad? No. Would you be proud of it telling your friends? No. Would you be proud telling your coaches? No. The fourth question is, does this help me get my dream? No. Right. Why would it not help you get to your dream? You could get arrested, right?
Yeah.
What else?
It's because, like, even though you've been, like, so successful in life and you're, like, 40, but you did this, and, like, the guy that was in your drug deal, maybe he, like, snitched on you.
That's right, something like that.
He got arrested, like, now.
So many things.
Arrested even though you've done all these successful things. It actually depends what your dream is. What if your dream is to do that type of stuff?
Well, then you're not going to have a long life. Let me explain something to you. Do you know why you don't see old gang members? There you go. They're usually in jail or they're dead. Some give up. Some are smart. Some realize to use their brain and they get out of it. So if it doesn't help you get your dream, if it doesn't hurt you, if it hurts you, it hurts somebody else, doesn't help you get your dream, takes you off track if you can't explain it to your loved ones. And the very last thing is this what I really want? And that's a very hard question to ask yourself. And it takes a special type of person to be able to say, this is not what I really want from my life, and I'm not okay with this. And the thing is with that, when you get this at home, if you just pay attention to this a little bit, if any of those answers and any of those questions for any of the situations you come across is no, you probably shouldn't do it. You can have 4 yeses and 1 no, but if any of those come back to no, you probably should say, this is not going to help me get to what I want. Long story short, man, I'll end it off with that, but I just want to take the last 2 or 3 minutes to say, you have your whole life, and I know you're going to hear that from here on forward, and it doesn't mean much to you right now, but before you know it, you might be me standing here talking to yourself. And when I look at some of you people, I see myself in everything I did. And there's a lot of things I'm not proud of, and I totally wish I can go back in time and change a lot of things that I did, where I hurt people, or I did things that I'm not proud of, things that I knew I hurt somebody, I hurt myself, I did not feel good having to explain to my family, things that took me away from my dream, and most importantly, things that I'm just not proud of in general. But that being said, if you've done something like that, it's not the end of the world. You can always come back. You can make a choice. You can decide, I don't want to be that anymore. And I'll end off with this, and this is something that stuck with me for a long time. One of my coaches actually had said this to me when I was really young, probably your age, and it stuck with me. And for me, I was lucky enough that most sports teams I played on, I was the captain. And when you're the captain of the teams that you play on, it wasn't because I was the best player. It was that I understood how to lead people very early on. And by leading people, the hardest part for me, and this is what a coach explained to me that stuck with me, is doing the right thing is not meant to be easy. That's why it's such a difficult decision. So if you think of yourself as a leader, as somebody who's going to get what you want out of everything in life, to be that NBA athlete, to be that architect or whatever job you want, to live in that dream home, in that dream house, a lot of times, if not all the time, it means making the right decisions, which aren't the easy decisions to make. So for that, thank you. And if you have any questions, if you have time for it, by all means, you guys can ask. If not, thank you guys so much.